Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning, Adefemi.
Good morning, Dr. Rubin. How are we doing?
Niman Fellow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So many in my fellow.
You are one of the
and unfortunately, thank you. And unfortunately, because of this administration, may not be many more African fellows into the Neiman Foundation this year.
Well,
it's very sad. Very, very sad.
How many days to Ojude-Oba?
So we have Ojude-Oba is June 8th. God willing.
Yesterday was 11 days.
Yeah, yesterday was 11 days, so we're 10 days now, and then 8 days away from Ileya, so we're getting there. We're getting there.
You know when I asked that question, you know
I know.
Well,
your order has put in...
are signposting Ojude-Oba.
Yes.
We will start Ojude-Oba in Egbaland.
Please go
Oh,
ahead.
you guys have, what do they call it, Lisabi Day? I think that's you guys.
We have Lisabi Day.
Yes.
Yeah, we can also create Ojude-Oba.
Oh, really?
Please go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
They can't compare though, you understand? It's not the same.
You can't compare.
It's not the same.
Go
Let me
ahead.
tell you what's happening around the world. Now, Elon Musk is leaving his government role as a top advisor to President Donald Trump after spearheading efforts to reduce and overhaul the federal bureaucracy. Now, his departure, announced on Wednesday evening, marks the end of a turbulent chapter that has included thousands of layoffs, the evisceration of government agencies, and reams of litigation. Now, despite the upheaval, the billionaire entrepreneur struggled in the unfamiliar environment of Washington, D.C., and he accomplished far less than he hoped. Now, he dramatically reduced his target for cutting spending from $2 trillion to $1 trillion and then $150 billion, and increasingly expressed frustration about resistance to his goals. Though Musk's role working for Trump was always intended to be temporary, he did recently signal that he would be shifting his attention back to the running of his businesses, Tesla, and of course the rocket company SpaceX. But his departure does come a day after criticizing the legislative centerpiece of Trump's agenda. In what has been called a significant gesture of reconciliation, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has publicly apologized to the people of Buganda, acknowledging historical missteps and seeking forgiveness for the government's past actions. Let's take a listen.
We therefore stand here to repent and ask for your forgiveness and forgiveness of especially the people of Buganda and the whole country, for restoration and favor. Lord, restore
the favor that we had with them in the beginning.
Bring healing to their hearts. Soften the hardened hearts and reconnect us to the original vision of our national unity and unwavering commitment to social and economic transformation.
Well, the Museveni's public apology was read jointly, as we saw, with First Lady during the Light Up Uganda for Jesus crusade at Kololo, which brought together all religious faiths for prayers. Now, the Buganda Kingdom, with its rich cultural heritage, holds a very significant role in Ugandan history. Museveni came to power in 1986 after a guerrilla war that lasted 5 years. The war was mainly in Buganda, where the kingdom and its people were very vital for Museveni's victory. Now, following the Bush War, Museveni and the NRM garnered massive support in Buganda in multiple elections held. However, in 2021, general elections turned out differently for the NRM and Museveni himself. Now, his popular support in Buganda massively shrunk, with all NRM ministers losing their parliamentary seats. Now, analysts say that Museveni has technically isolated Buganda and its aspirations, as well as failing to return properties captured during the war as he had promised. Now, Museveni's public apology comes as the country gears up for the 2026 general elections, which some say is aimed at regaining Buganda's lost support. And finally, parents in Japan will no longer have free rein over the names they give their children. That's after the introduction this week of new rules on the pronunciation of kanji characters. Now, the change is designed to halt the use of what they call kira, which is shiny or glittery, decorative names that have proliferated amongst parents, hoping to add a creative flourish to their children's names, which inadvertently creates administrative headaches for local authorities in schools and hospitals. While the revisions to the Family Registry Act do not ban kanji, kanji is actually Chinese-based characters written in Japanese. parents are still required to inform local authorities of their phonetic reading in an attempt to banish unusual or controversial pronunciations. Now, parents have been criticized for naming their children after famous characters or brands like Pikachu from Pokemon, or Nike, and naming it after the sports brand Nike, Daya, Diamond, and Pooh, as in Winnie the Pooh, and all of these other, examples. Now, others have made headlines for their supposed impudence. Now, Oji-sama in Japanese means prince, and Akuma means devil. These are also names parents have given their children. Now, parents have defended their choices as a show of individual flair in a society where the pressure to conform can be overwhelming, particularly when it comes to raising children. Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of these stories.
Now, wow.
Akuma,
what's it concern government with
somebody's names? It's the pronunciation.
Japanese government should focus on their focus. As regards Yoweri Museveni's funny apology with his wife, you remember that popular Kenyan song, Kirisimasi yo, Kirisimasi mama. That's how much of a joke it is to me. Yoweri Museveni with his wife reading the public apology, and he said it was at a Jesus conference. These people should stop calling the name of the Lord in vain. With the people Yoweri Museveni kills in this country, at a Jesus conference. I'll take you what really happened then. Is that when the British were negotiating Ugandan states, Buganda pushed for an independent territory. In fact, they even have their own parliament. The Kabaka led it. And that was the agreement. But the first onslaught they faced was against Martin Obote. Obote was from the north, and Obote felt, no, we shouldn't give the Bugandans this level of power. So, as he continued hounding them, that continued. He had a big crackdown against the Buganda. Guess who we used? Idi Amin Dada. Milton Obote finally got out of the scene. Idi Amin Dada went there, and he continued the oppression against the Buganda kingdom. And that continued. When Milton Obote came from the second time in the 80s, the oppression again continued against the Buganda people. So when Yoweri Museveni came with his NRM and they were fighting for, revolution of some sort from Milton Obote and the likes and the Ugandans, the Buganda said, okay, let's support this man so that he will give us what we negotiated from the British. Before they even got that special status, that federal status, they had fought the British for that. He lied to them, urged them on. Then guess what he did? Started persecution against the Buganda again. And these days, they found solace in the likes of Bobby Wine and Kizza Besigye, which is a case I feel we're not even talking about, the way they are hounding Kizza Besigye. And kudos to Martha Karua, because she's been on those cases, the case of Tundu Lissu and Kizza Besigye. So elections is now coming. Yoweri Museveni looks and says, how can I deceive these people? He said, okay, me and my wife, let's read statement. We hereby apologize to Buganda people that are still oppressing. We hereby apologize to Buganda people because of 2026 election. Does Yoweri Museveni think the Bugandas are fools?
I hope not.
Right. Well, okay, let me just pick up from Uganda. So I think all has been said, really. M7, as he's popularly known in Uganda, has become quite a nefarious leader in his own right. He has done many things right, but he unfortunately has done more things wrong. And at this, I believe that's what happens when you overstay your welcome. The longer you stay on the throne, the more, the higher the probability that you're going to start making mistakes and you're going to start behaving in a totalitarian, despotic, and authoritarian way to retain your power. Now, for me, the undertones around this are around the news that General Muhoozi, who is his son, is the most likely successor. Well, General Muhoozi has been given some strategic positions in government. Of course, he's a retired army general, and now he's special advisor on various areas and so forth. He has launched his own party, which has the full backing of his father. But the concerns around General Muhoozi, if you follow him, especially on Twitter or X, are the fact that he is totally filterless. Now, if people think Donald Trump talks from the hips, shoots from the hip, you have not seen anything yet. General Muhoozi is the type of person who wakes up one day and tweets that, I feel like invading Kenya. Those are the types of statements. And this is the man who's in line to become the next president of Uganda. So what is the real apology? In my house, we have one saying that I love to always repeat. The greatest form of apology is change behavior. What reform are we going to see from M7 that will truly translate into an apology for his people? Number one, the royal artifacts of the Buganda kingdom must be returned. Their property must be returned. All of the things that they agreed on, the land must be returned. All the things that they agreed on when they agreed to endorse M7 need to be done. That deal needs to be fully implemented. Secondly, a free and fair election. Uganda is going to the polls in 2026, and of course, it's always been it has always been a rubber stamp election. It's just a formality. With General Muhoozi most likely on the ballot, this is the first election that M7 will not be on the ballot. General Muhoozi will be on the ballot. We hope that it will be free and fair, and I think that's the greatest apology he can give to Ugandans, and the release of all political prisoners as well.
Okay, very quickly. Uganda is going to the polls on 12 January 2026. And Yoweri Museveni, who has been president of Uganda for 40 years, is now 80 years. He's looking at remaining in office. The people of Uganda used to support him, but then he lost their support at some point. All he's doing with his wife is to try to see how he can hypnotize, perhaps, the people of Uganda to retain him in office. He's a sit-tight political leader. And that's why there's a lot of tension in Uganda at this moment as a result of, that 12th January 2026 election. Bobby Wine remains a thorn in his flesh. Sekundu, the bodyguard to Bobby Wine, has been kidnapped, he has disappeared. So many other persons have disappeared. There's a regime of repression and authoritarianism in Uganda. And I think that the international community must insist, whatever tricks Yoweri Museveni brings out of his books, that election must be free and fair. And that Yoweri Museveni does not have the right to stay forever in that office. Even in your country, Zimbabwe, you have the Buganda people there. They used to call them Mugabe Buganda, which is about kinship and all of that. So it's a very complex story in Eastern Africa. However, the more important story from South Africa for me, as a student of literature, is the death yesterday of Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o. Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o, originally James Ngũgĩ, wrote in English, and then decided to write in Kikuyu, his native language. He was one of those leading exponents of the politics of language in African literature. And, he published early in the Heinemann African Writers series, such novels as The River Between, The Petals of Blood, and he was also the author of Igahinka Idenda, also the author of I Will Marry When I Want. So, Weep Not Child, Petals of Blood, but so in African, a grain of wheat, yes, is part of the bibliography. So we have lost in literature in Africa one of the leading lights, and we would like to commiserate with the people of Kenya, and particularly Makerere University in Uganda, right, which produced them. So that's that about that. As for Elon Musk, yes, Tesla has been suffering. They've lost business. They have competition with BYD. In fact, as recently as yesterday, the investors in Tesla wrote to the board chair to say that Elon Musk must put in at least 40 hours per week. That is his primary work. This 130-day assignment ends at the end of May, and he must return to work. So that's that about that. And he's been criticizing the big, beautiful bill anyway, because it will increase deficit. But Elon Musk is having some luck in South Africa, where they are now preparing opportunity for Starlink to come in.
It all works out in the end for us, does it not?
What was the title of that Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o's book again? I Will Marry at what?
I Will Marry When I Want, where you have Gitoni and all that.
Okay.
And as for naming and naming systems, it's not only in Japan.
Yes.
New Zealand also
Yes.
frowns against meaningless names.
Yes.
Sweden also frowns against meaningless names.
Okay.
And in Africa, naming and naming systems are important. You don't just go and give your child Any funny name?
No.
Even though people from Bayelsa and Rivers, they be a census, conference, election.
Conference?
Doctor again. I will marry when I...
Yes, Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o.
When I want, right?
Yes.
It sounds like
One
Rufai
of
is
his
talking
plays.
to
That's a
somebody.
play. He was also a playwright.
Have they been bothering you about when you're getting married, Rufai?
So that's why I'm happy for him to repeat it. I will marry when I...
I hope our producer Ekena is also hearing this.
Oh, all righty. Let's move on to newspaper
That's my
reviews. Let's take a look at the front page of This Day this morning. Now, of course, this is the second anniversary of President Tinubu's administration. The president has maintained that the economic reforms which he embarked upon in the last 2 years are working and yielding the expected results, insisting that the worst is already behind Nigeria. Now, the president dismissed recent concerns over fluctuating crude oil prices, which recently did hit $58 a barrel, despite a $75 per barrel budget benchmark, pointing out that Nigeria's fiscal targets for 2025 remain on track. Now, the vast majority of papers this morning have dedicated their front pages to this administration's anniversary. The New Telegraph has also, to that effect, Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, Cardinal John Onayekon, saying rather calling on the president to confront the harsh realities of the hardship facing Nigerians beyond the praise of his aides or, risk electoral defeat in 2027. That being said, the Daily Independent does stand behind the president's quote on the economy being stabilized for Nigeria's growth. And it's the same story on the Vanguard. But if we look at the Daily Trust now, in addition to its headline on the anniversary, which, as I said, is the lead story today, there's also an update which we have on the African Development Bank elections as votes begin to elect a new president. So, as ever, we extend our deepest congratulations to President Tinubu and his administration, and we continue to hope and pray for the best for our country. Those are your newspapers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Adefemi. We'll continue to count down 10 days to go.
10 days to go.
All right.